Hello, everybody. Oh, how is everybody? Try and get this all nicely on screen. Now then, I'm going out on Facebook and YouTube, so if I can't answer everything, if I don't see something, you know, if I don't see any comments or things like that, forgive me for that, because my monitor at the moment is just full of mess. I'm monitoring what we've got going out. I've got the a pop-up chat for the YouTube. I've got the Facebook thing going out. So yeah, so I might not see various comments. So if I don't, then in advance, apologies for that. And also, let's just make sure this thing's not going to fall off. Yeah, when I start doing some of the little sort of more seminary kind of things, I don't tend to look at the comments because it just ends up distracting me. So, as you'll have seen, I end up getting sidetracked and digressing because I start following along with what people are asking, and I never get to the point of the, you know, that I'm trying to get to. So, yeah, again, apologies for that. I hope you're all okay. Let's see how many we've got on Facebook at the moment. We've got, how many we got there on YouTube? It's a while since I've done these consistently, so tend not to get that many. 51 on YouTube. How many we got on Facebook? Oh, 25, not too bad. Hi Hector there on Facebook. Looks like everybody's having a nice little chat in YouTube. You need an assistant to read comments for you. Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Just in case you didn't realise, Talkingbass is only me. I do everything for it, so I don't really have any assistance in any way. But that would be good. Just before I get started on this, see what you guys think. I've mentioned it before, but I am thinking about starting up a new side to the channel, to the YouTube channel, doing interviews. And now I've got a few people lined up already that are quite interested. And I think it could be pretty good. But I don't want to do it if I'm not going to get any views. You know, because it's actually going to be quite a lot of work. And you know, I've got a bunch of people that, no massively famous people, but they, you know, like quite, you know, very good bass players and very good, that would make really interesting talks. But, yeah, I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think that would be good? I would like to have it as a weekly thing. You know, I would probably have it maybe on a Monday. So, like, every Monday, Talkingbass. I mean, the name Talkingbass, it kind of works for it, doesn't it, really? So Talkingbass on a, I don't know, the Talkingbass interviews, or possibly side by side with a podcast. I've always been a bit shied away from doing a straight podcast because my voice just sounds terrible as a, you know, just going out as my voice, you know. It's not as bad when you can kind of see my face, but, you know. So that's a thought anyway. That's something that I've been thinking about. So if you think that would be any good, and if there are any people that you'd like me to get on, then be sure to let me know. I put this out on Twitter how long? About 6 months ago, and there were quite a few people mentioning names, and some of the names actually got back. They actually got tagged in there, and they seemed quite interested. So, something to think about. Yesterday, I released a video, just in case you've not seen it yet. It's a rehash of one that I did about 3 years ago on The Chinese Way by Level 42. Let's see if I can actually play it at the moment. You know, that. And it's a really cool little riff. But I was playing it possibly slightly, well, no, not wrong, because you can play riffs any way you want, really. But there were a few notes in there that I wasn't happy with. And I tried playing along with a live version of it from the Guaranteed Tour 1991, and it's really fast on there. It's like crazy fast. And I was playing along to it, and I thought, well, this just doesn't sit right. So I amended the way that I was playing, and I kind of watched what he was doing, and I thought, that'll make it a lot easier. So I've changed it. So anyway, I've redone the video, so I released that yesterday. And let me know what you think. If any of you are interested in getting better with your finger picking, then that riff is really good, because it's got a lot of little double. Pull back a little bit. You know, you get that kind of Jaco Pastorius style, fingerstyle funk. You know, round and round. So check that out if you've not seen it yet. And yeah, so cool. So let me just, before I start talking about this four-finger picking thing, because that's what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to do two little topics. One of them is going to be on four-finger picking, which, on the face of it, can sound a little bit like, ooh, four-finger picking, but it's actually not as hard as you'd think. And when I talk about four-finger picking, I'm not meaning, you know, bringing the pinky in. I'm talking about, good start. So, you know, using a kind of claw hammer technique. So, using that kind of technique. So, that's what I'm going to be going through. And I'm also going to be talking about joint barring, which is something that a lot of people tend to have problems with. You know, when they're trying to learn various bass lines that sound like that. You know, that kind of, you know, barring with the fourth finger there, which is really, or even the first finger. That kind of thing. And so I'll talk about that a little bit too. So just before I start, let me just make sure everything's working fine. So if you can't hear me properly, or you know the bass is too quiet or anything like that, just let me know. But bear in mind, if you're watching on a mobile device, phone, tablet, then the bass is usually going to sound a little bit weaker than it would on you know, headphones or speakers or you know, whatever. Let me just, I'll just turn the bass up a touch. Coming in right. I don't want to distort everything. Let me know if that's distorting. Let me just read through. So, yep, we've got everyone there in YouTube land. Does anyone know what pedal he's using? I'm not using any. Well, I mean, I am actually going through a B3, through a Zoom B3, but I've not got anything switched on it. I just use that for, well, there's actually a limiter on there. Let me just... So that's actually fattening it up a little bit. There's a Mark Bass amp simulator on there, but I've actually turned that off because it gets a bit tinny sounding. Songs to get started with walking bass, please. Okay, well, I'll talk about that in a bit. Or do you work on static walking bass lines? Okay, well, I'll talk about that a little bit later as well. Like one chord over 2 bars. Okay, right. Hold on. Let me make some notes, because otherwise I'll forget all these. So I'll talk about that. So walking bass songs. I'll work through Autumn Leaves for you, because that's a good start. Static lines for 2 bars. Have you done a video on Power by Marcus Miller? This rock hard is that. It's got that. It's like you've got to come down that lick, I guess you're talking about, but it is tricky. Like I've said before, I'm not an aficionado when it comes to double thumbing. There's guys that are way better than me. I can do it a little bit, obviously, and I use it for certain things, like just to get a certain feel and tone sometimes. But I'm not very good at that power. I've never learned it properly, but I know what you mean. Going in from that See what I mean? Like I say, I've never learned it, but I do know what the notes are. But that's the line anyway. But I can talk about it. But like I say, like I'm rubbish at it as well. Oh, I hate it when Talkingbass does a live stream and YouTube doesn't send notification. I've actually sent out an email to everybody, so hopefully you'll have got that if you're on the mailing list, that is. Yeah, guest teachers will be great. I'll tell you two of the guys that I am thinking about having on to begin with that have both said yes, they'll definitely do it. One of them's Joe Hubbard and the other one's Tony Gray. So I'm friends with both those guys and they're both interested. I could probably get Scott Devine to come on as well, obviously. But we'll see. Once every 2 weeks would be fine. Every week might be too frequent. Really? I was kind of thinking of it in the same way that Joe Rogan does his podcast. Trying to kind of, if I can make it a routine thing, like a weekly thing, then, you know, I'm more likely to get viewers, really, because otherwise it's like, when's it going to be on? You know, that's why I always try to make sure I get a video out every Friday, because if you know, it's like having a TV series, isn't it? If you've... Like if there's a TV series where there's like one episode every now and then, you'd never watch it. You'd never know when it was going to be on. Okay, cool. So let me just check Facebook. Like I say, I'm having a whip between these two videos. Oh wow, I've got loads of comments there as well. So you like the idea? Cool, nice one. Hi Dave. Yes, this is an Ibanez. It's an SR1000. This is the obligatory bass question that any of you regulars will know about. Yes, it's an Ibanez SR1000 from I bought it in 1991, and these are Martin Sims Super Quad pickups. That's the, they don't sell these anymore. It's an SR1000. But they were all the rage back in the early 90s when I got it. Okay, so cool, right. So I will get. Oh, there. Have you ever met Mark King? I have, but not on the Isle of Wight, which is weird. I live on the Isle of Wight, right? Mark King lives about a mile down the road. He's like right there. He lives on the same road as my mother-in-law, mother and father-in-law, parents-in-law, if you call them that. So he lives on that same road there. And I've never met him on the Isle of Wight. I've met him in passing at the London Bass show. But never really sat down and had a proper chat with him. He was a bit... well, it was just in passing. He was just leaving the building, really. And we were just had a quick hi... How do you enlist on the email list? If you just sign up to Talking Bass, it's a free membership over at talkingbass.net. You're just automatically put on the mailing list. England, yes. Are you friends with Scott or rivals? I've known Scott a long time. We were at music college together in the late 90s. I've known him years. I work with him. I do all the transcriptions and workbooks and everything for SBL Academy. That's me. I write all those. Yeah, we've known each other a long, long time. We've both got kids the same age as well. That's usually our main topic of conversation. We're both from the same town, basically. We're both from up Leeds. He originally came from Carlisle, which is further up, but I'm from Leeds, Wakefield. It actually is. Yeah, he's from Leeds now. Same as Jeff Chalmers. If you know Discover Double Bass as well, Jeff Chalmers, he's the same. We're all from the same neck of the woods. Okay, cool. Right, so let me talk briefly about this four-finger picking thing. Now, if any of you have seen my... I have done a video on this on YouTube about a couple of years ago, but I'll go over it because, you know, people don't see all my old videos. Now, four-finger picking is really, really handy for doing certain types of bass lines. because you can play really, really fast, really, really easily, right? Now, that doesn't mean that it's just this one-size-fits-all for playing fast things, you know, but it can help with certain things. And it's very, very helpful. Oops. Any kind of chordal kind of thing, you know, if you're playing chordally, you're generally going to be playing with these three fingers like this, you know. So if I'm down here, let's say, okay, so you can see how I'm playing with this kind of claw hammer kind of technique. So that's playing like that. So I'm using the thumb for usually either the E or A string. Then I'm using the first finger for usually the D string, and then the second finger, the middle finger, for the G string. So if I'm playing a chord like that, you can see there, and it's kind of that motion. So I'm kind of doing that. Can you see? Some of my basses, you know, on the YouTube videos, they look quite nice, don't they? They're all like shining and things because of the lights. But honestly, when you see the back of these things, my Fender, it's in there, I think, the Fender Jazz, they're beat up to hell. It's like my Fender Jazz, when I first got that, because, you know, from gigging and stuff, they just get battered. You know, it's pointless having, I always think it's pointless having a bass that you really, really, you know, are really worried about, because they do get battered on the road and on gigs. Like my Fender Jazz, I remember when I first bought that, like, what, 2003, maybe? When I first bought that, I got it, and I was like, oh, I love it, the Marcus Miller one. And I remember the first gig I was doing, I was walking onto like a theatre stage, and it was through a doorway at the side. And as I'm walking through, I'd got it around my neck, and it just bashed straight into the door frame and chipped half of the headstock off and knocked a big chunk out of the neck. I had to glue part of the fingerboard back on. It was like the first gig. It's like the whole thing's just battered. And this thing, from belt buckles and all kinds of things on the back, is knackered, and you can see loads of little dints in them. You know, they look nice on YouTube, but they're absolutely battered. Anyway, I digress. So yeah, so we've got this kind of. Now, one other upside to playing like that is that when you're playing things like harmonics, you know, it's easy for playing harmonic chords. You know, dead simple like that. So think about a few other things that you get with a hand in that kind of position too. So we've got typical chords, we've got harmonics, and we've also got, you know, we've got slapping as well, because the hand is still in that kind of position. So there's a lot of things you can do with the hand in this kind of position. And pick, actually, if you wanted to play with a pick, again, you're in the same position. It all comes from that position, as opposed to, you know, thumb down, you know, anchored and playing. So it's quite a handy position to be in. So once you start, I mean, the best way to start with this is just playing chords, you know, just playing basic old chords. But then if you want to start getting into this four-finger picking kind of thing, playing single notes, it does help if you've got a ramp or you've got pickups like this. I mean, I find these pickups brilliant for this, because it gives me something to... basically a ramp. If none of you have seen a ramp, it's just a piece of wood that goes under the strings, like what these pickups are, and it stops you from digging in. So instead of having, let's say, that bit there, can you see in front of these pickups, like on any bass, you know, you've got a gap between the string and the body. Well, the ramp stops that, and it means it's a little bit more like picking over the neck, you know, it's over here. It stops you from digging in, and it can improve your speed. When Billy Sheehan he on one of his videos started talking about you know, the secret to his speed, you know, and he was talking about how playing over the pickup, he'd got this particular place over the pickup that he played, and it was really, really good for developing speed, because there's no digging in. And it's the same principle. Now, when you do four-finger picking, if you pick over, let's say that those pickups weren't there, and you're picking up over you know, fresh air that's beneath it. It's really difficult to do because, I mean, people like Abe Laboriel, he can do it fine. And you can do it, but it's much, much easier when you're doing it over a pickup. So if you get a ramp, that can help. Anyway, so basically what we're doing is I'm just holding down a C there. And then if I pluck with a thumb like that, okay, so you pluck with a thumb, and then it's first finger, second finger, and then third finger. So the way to get used to this is to start by just playing with the thumb and the first finger, just those two to begin with. Just get used to that. And you can see there, it's exactly the same principle. That finger's just doing this. You're just bringing them kind of into the hand like that. So that's the first step, just playing thumb and first finger. Just get a nice consistent sound and tone. And that's pretty much like playing with a pick, you know. So that's, you know, just try doing that. It'll give you a different tone to, you know, to playing with fingers like that. When you're playing with fingers like this, because you've probably developed calluses and you've got more meat behind it, you're generally going to get a bit more body to the sound. It's a little bit more rattly when you play like this because you kind of almost, you're not popping, but you kind of, you almost are, just with the action of it. So just get used to that thumb and first finger. Then you can bring the second finger into play. Now, unlike normal three-finger, normal three-finger picking where you play 3, 2, 1, or 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. So instead of doing, you can see there, if I'm doing standard Billy Sheehan style or Steve Bailey style, I'm playing 3, 2, 1. So instead of doing it like that, you're doing it the other way, which at first seems a little bit counterintuitive and it seems a little bit odd, to be doing it thumb 1, 2, 3. But trust me, it works better this way. So we've got thumb 1, 2. So now we've got 3-finger picking going on. So thumb 1, 2. Okay. And you can just start just try playing on one note. And or then try individual notes. So you could try playing something like a scale. Just one. So that's thumb, first finger, then thumb, first finger, second finger, thumb, first finger, second finger. I just saw Dave say they're like classical guitar style. Exactly like classical guitar. So you will find that things start to become a lot more effortless. Like if I play a scale like that, even at a fairly, pedestrian tempo, that's very, very easy with 3-finger picking like this. But if I play it with, even though that's still very easy with 2 fingers, but it just feels a lot less tense. You feel like you're hardly doing anything. So if you take something like a, I don't know, just stereotypical kind of pentatonic or bluesy kind of line, that's just coming up 3 fingers at a time, so it's a pretty straightforward line. You can get real whipping lines without even trying. It's really, really easy to build up speed, whereas with 2 fingers, it's doable, obviously, but and you get more of a snap to it. So, and you can go as fast as you want, to be honest. So that, in instantly. Makes life a lot easier when it comes to playing some fairly quick runs. Now, like I've said, this is not this isn't just like a solution to all your speed problems, because it might not work for some things, because the tone is so different. So you might not want to be using it all the time. But that's just thumb, first finger, second finger. And that's very, very simple lines. But as soon as you start playing much more intricate lines, you've got to get a lot better with it. And like I said, I'm not I don't practice this that much. I'm not that, I'm not like some virtuoso or anything. But I have found it can be quite useful in certain circumstances. So, I mean, just taking a line like that. All I'm doing there, I'm coming up E, F, F sharp, and then A sharp, B, just so that's 7th fret, 8th fret, 9th fret, A string, 7th fret, 8th fret, 9th fret, D string, and then 7th fret up at the top. Just take it slow to begin with, just to get used to the actual coordination between the hands. It's easy to sometimes go a little bit out. But again, dead straightforward. So, once you've got used to walking around like that, and remember what I said as well, when you actually start playing like that, for real sort of straightforward, like pedaling lines, it's dead simple. And like I said, it's a different tone to the the old Billy Sheehan kind of 3-finger picking. Can you hear how it's different? Remember, I am muting there just so that you can hear each note a bit easier. So that's those 3 fingers. So if we add what is that? The ring finger. See, I'm not wearing my ring, my wedding ring. Keeps banging on the neck. So once you've nailed those 3 fingers, it's dead easy to add the 4th. So we just have thumb, first finger, second finger, and then we bring that finger into play. And you'll notice when you start playing like that, I'm finding that difficult to play that slow. But if I was to play with 2 fingers, so let's take a oops. See, it's actually hard to play that slow. It's actually easier, faster. Like I said, I am muting just so you can hear it a little bit easier. See the difference? It's like that. Okay, so once you've got that down and you can just, you've just got used to the motion, then you can start trying to play riffs. So the riff that I used originally on the original YouTube video that I played with this sounds like this. Hold on, let me get back a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so it's that riff, if you were just playing it with your finger, I'm not even going to try. I know I can't play it. It would be really difficult. You're just really hard to play, but it's so easy like that. That's the kind of thing that if you didn't know what I was doing and it was on some record and you were listening to it, it'd be like going back in time and listening to Eddie Van Halen and going, what's he doing? Because you'd be thinking, how do you play that? Then, if you want to get a little bit more used to crossing the strings, then you can move up. So, Oh, actually, sorry. I'll just show you what the riff actually was. So I'm just on a C. So it's just 4 notes on a C. So the 3rd fret of the A string. Then I've got G, B flat, so 5th fret D string, 3rd fret G string. And when I come up, I'm playing thumb and then 1st finger for the G and the B flat. And then once we get to the top, I just play 4 on the C again, so the 5th fret of the G string. And then when I come down, I'm playing thumb and then 1st finger. So you start off slow. Like I say, it's harder to play it slow. It doesn't even look like me. I can see myself in the, not the mirror, on the screen. You can't even see the fingers moving, really. It's very clean and you don't actually move that much. Because it's all going on under here. So then once you move up to E flat, same pattern, root 5th, flat 7 octave. Notes. So I can play 2 on the E flat, then, so that's with the thumb and the 1st finger, and then on the D string, you play with the 2nd finger and 3rd finger, so middle ring. So, and then thumb, and then 1st finger at the top. And then you just move up, so take that just up 2 frets. Like, I've not practiced this for a long time, so I feel a little bit rusty doing it, but you can see that, you know, if you practice it for a while, you can really get a fair bit of speed up. The other thing that I showed on the original video for that was playing up through a chromatic scale, because chromatic scales have got 4 notes per string if you play them a certain way. So that's a really, really easy pattern to play just if you're wanting to get used to crossing the strings. It's a fairly useless pattern, I suppose, but just in terms of getting the technique down, it's fairly good for that. So if I was working across from a C, let's say, just coming up a C chromatically, and it helps with actually muting, getting rid of a lot of noise, because as you come up, you really need to use the heel to actually, heel of the hand, that is, not the heel of the foot. That'd be good, wouldn't it? To take out some of the noise as you come up. So if I just come up like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, just like that, on each string, just coming down 1 fret as I go, so... or just up to the C. See, I'm a bit out of practice, but you get the idea. So you can really, really rip with these lines as you're working on them. And then once you get beyond that, like I was talking about the chord thing earlier on, if you're working through a chord, let's say, you know, if you're just getting bored of playing the same old, you know, you can actually use it just to get flurries through all that. Oops. I mean, that's a bit of a naff example, actually, but you get the idea. You know, just for a flurry, you know. But like I say, it's because of that. Once you get used to this kind of way of playing, you know, whether you're using all 4 fingers or whether you're just using one and the thumb and the 1st finger, once you've got used to... Once you get used to that kind of playing, sticking in things like harmonics is really, really, really easy because you're just... You know, you get used to putting those in very, very easy because of the position that you're in. Or slapping. Like I think that was harmonics I put in there. But going between... You know, switching between the techniques is a lot easier than going from... You know, than switching the hand over like this. Because you're right there when you're playing it. But like I said, just putting in little, you know, any kind of chordal thing, whatever it is, when you're actually in this position, it works out better. And because of the way the hand is, because you're like, you know, because the arm's more straight, it's actually better for you in a way because unlike, I mean, I tend not, I know that some people think that I have a bent wrist when I'm playing, but I don't really. I don't actually have the wrist pushing in so much. You know, I'm not pushing in like this. But some people, if you've got the bass up here and you've got your wrist bent over and it's all like, you know, all your tendons getting crushed in there. Playing like this is, you can see that I've got a fairly straight arm. So, yeah, anyway. So that's four-finger picking. You know, you could, I mean, do with it what you will. I mean, I don't find much use for it, to be honest, apart from sitting there and playing, you know, playing little riffs like that. But, you know, you might find some use for it. I know that one of the things for all you metalheads out there, one of the first things that you're going to be thinking is, great, I can start playing Cannibal Corpse tunes, and, you know, like playing just crazy fast, you know, kind of things. But one thing you'll find is that with this technique, it doesn't actually sound that good doing that. It's much more suited to more staccato kind of funky kind of things. As soon as you start with like... As soon as you start with that kind of thing, it doesn't work as well, you know. It's I don't know. It's just the tone. It just doesn't seem to work out as well. You will find that you've got more body, you know. I just don't think it works as well. But you know. If you're in a death metal band and you want to try doing it, fire away. But you might have the rest of the band say, "No, that just doesn't sound that good." So, yes, that's that. Let me just make sure that I'm keeping up to speed with all the stuff that I've got in here. So that was the four-finger picking thing. Oh, great! My brother's on. My brother Adam's there. So, that's four-finger picking. The other thing I was going to talk about is joint barring. That's a word I've come up with, or a phrase I've come up with, or, you know, a name I've come up for it. You'll also see Billy Sheehan talk about this as the rocking on the bar technique when he talks about it. Basically, what I'm talking about is barring your finger to play notes on two adjacent strings. And it's something that you will do all the time. You know, if you're not doing that, then it could be one of the reasons why you're not moving smoothly across strings at times, especially on very, very simple bass lines. If you're on a bass line and you're playing something like... Actually, you'll have to forgive the fret noise coming from this thing at the moment. So... You know, that kind of thing, you know, like... So if you're just playing between two notes like that, G and C, The first thing that you might try doing if you're not used to doing this barring is jumping from one string to another like that. And what happens when you do that, you just get these staccato notes, and it just sounds, you know, pants. You know, if that's what you're trying to get, you want the note leading into the next one. And if you've got to take the finger off and put it on the next string, it's just not going to happen. So this is where actually having this barring technique comes in. Now, this isn't anything crazy like the four-finger picking, you know, like some far-out technique. It's just, you know, something that we generally all start to do naturally. But if you haven't started to do this naturally, then I would advise you to look at it. So let's say that we're looking at a C, a G to a C there. Now, I would probably play the G there with maybe the end of the finger, the sort of end, yeah, the fingertip. And then when I come back to play on the C, the finger kind of collapses back. I bring the hand back a touch so that I've got a little bit more weight on my side, a kind of lever action with the arm. But do you see what I'm doing with the finger there? So I'm actually holding the A string down with that joint there. And it means you can just move between the two like this. So that means that you get a much more fluid sound. As opposed to, you know, trying to jump across and hop over onto the next string. It's just something I've always naturally done, but it was something that when I started teaching, I realized that a lot of people didn't do. And I was like, oh man, that just sounds rubbish. Quick, do this. So yeah, that's a really useful thing. Now that's just with the first finger, but you'll find that if you do that with the fourth finger, the pinky, it can be really, really useful, and people find it quite tough to do when they first start trying it. Now, there is a bit of a knack to doing this. So if you play, let's do this on the, like a C there. So I won't do it on here to begin with. So if I was to play C, G, C, G. Something like that, okay? Now, each note, I'm wanting to, I don't want it to be a chord. I don't want that. I want, so da 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 da. So the, you know, the individual notes, because sometimes if people bar, they can sometimes get this, you know, like a chord action from it. So if I'm going C, C, G, G, C, C, G, G, individual notes. Dead simple exercise. The way to look at this is to think first finger C, fourth finger G, and then fourth finger for the C. So the fourth finger's taking those two. But don't worry about holding it all down, you know, gripping it and I've got to bar across. Don't worry about that. First of all, just take the fifth pattern. So you're only holding down the first finger, but the fourth finger's there ready on the fifth fret, okay? So C, you see the fingers there ready. Just get used to the fifth, first of all. So just get used to that. The seesaw action of first finger, fourth finger, first finger, fourth finger, first finger, fourth finger. So that fourth finger, I've kind of got the finger held up against the D string. You know, I'm not pressing it down, it's just resting on it, keeping it nice and quiet. And then I just press it down when I get to the G, and then I just release pressure when I come back. So, like I say, it's a seesaw action. Whoops. Seesaw action on the string. So one is pushing down, but I'm always kind of touching it. It's just the pressure of holding them down that changes. The actual fingers stay there attached to the string very lightly. So that's your first step. Then, because I was doing this fairly, pretty much with the tip of the finger, When I go for the C, you want to kind of use the, like I say, a lever action to bring their finger back. So I release pressure on the D string. It's still kind of resting up against it, but I'm just taking the pressure off. And I'm pressing down on the G string with that joint there. So like I say, I'm not holding down and barring down a chord. And I'm actually kind of doing that with the hand. That's an exaggerated move, but it's kind of like this. So I'm actually using the arm a little bit to get a bit more strength in there. See how that finger, watch this finger here. See how the hand's coming back. But at all times, I'm actually, the fingers are actually staying attached to the, let me get a bit closer so you can see. Okay, so that's joint barring. And once you can do that, once you get onto these kind of bass lines where you've got, see how it's all the same motion. Okay, so same motion, same thing I was just doing there. It's just that barring action there. I just, out of the corner of my eye, saw somebody say that the middle finger flies up. The thing to start with is the that home position that I always talk about, where you've got the hand starting in this kind of position where everything's just held down, not pressing down, but just held against the strings slightly. And I've seen people talking about how the pinky's not strong enough and that, and yeah, all right, there might be a little bit of that going on, but some of it is technique. So when I'm playing this, remember what I said, I'm actually levering a little bit with the arm. It's not as much. It's not all to do with pressing down. You can actually pull back a little bit with the arm just to get it to move in there. That's on a G. G, D, and G. So G, D, G, G, D, G, D, G, G, D. So, yeah, so that's the, how are we doing for time? Okay, well, I've got 10 more minutes. So, that's a little bit of four-finger picking and a little bit of joint barring. So, hopefully that's helped a little bit. These are all things that I've already talked about on plenty of YouTube videos. But one thing that I've started realizing is that, you know, I kind of assume that everybody's seen every single one of my YouTube videos, and there's like 200 of them. And then I think, well, actually, they've probably not seen a lot of them, because I started about four and a half years ago. So there's 4.5 years worth of videos. And I know there's a few hardcore people out there that have seen all of them, but you know, sometimes I don't want to go over stuff that I've already talked about in previous lessons, but I'm actually better off talking about them a lot, you know, so that even if you have seen them, it's, you know, I get to go over it again. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, I suppose. But I've always just shied away from actually going over stuff that I've already done on videos, you know, or said, oh, go and look at that video. But, you know, they're quite far back. Right, so I've got 10 more minutes, so I'll just see what we've got here in the comments, and then I'll be getting off. We've got a good turnout today, actually. 217 on Facebook. That's a turn up. I think the most I've ever had is 40. That's a lot more. How many we got on YouTube? Let's have a look. Oh, 104. That's not too bad. So how many is that overall? We've got 104. We've got 300. We've got 320. That's good. Not 320. Yeah, 320. Wow. I'm famous. Cool. So, right, let me get through these things because, and bear in mind what I said before, I'm out on Facebook and on YouTube at the moment. So, on the Facebook, I'll look at the YouTube ones first, and then I'll switch. In fact, no, I'll look at the Facebook ones first because there's probably less of them, and then I'll go back to the YouTube. Actually, what am I talking about? There's way more on the Facebook. Once again, we've got a few people asking about the bass and the pickups. Like I've said before, it's the obligatory bass question I always get. So, yep, Ibanez SR1000. I bought it in 1992. I think it's 1992. And, yeah, these are Sims Super Quad pickups done by Martin Sims. And they're great. And if you've ever wondered what the LEDs do, you can switch between... They're not just Christmas tree lights. You know, it's not just for showing off. These are green is single coil, blue is dual coil, and red is split coil. So if you don't know anything about coils, not contraceptive coils, the single coil is like a jazz, Fender Jazz, you know, traditional Fender Jazz, and split coil is more like what you get on a Fender Precision, a traditional Fender Precision. Although if you do have hum cancelling Jazz pickups, they're often split coil, and then for dual coil, you're looking at stuff like I don't know if it's a Stingray. I think a Stingray is dual coil. Anyway, you got two coils there. Slap arpeggios, please. I don't know much about slap arpeggios. If you were going to do slap arpeggios, what, you mean like that, or let's think of something. Not sure what you mean by that, because I don't really do many arpeggios with slapping. I suppose that's a slap arpeggio. Or you could just play... I'll tell you what does use arpeggios in a slap context. What is it? Lessons in Love by Level 42. Yeah, that's all arpeggio driven. But yeah, I don't really do arpeggios that much on... you know, in terms of what you're thinking. I mean, when people talk about arpeggios, a lot of the time they're thinking, you know, they're talking sweep arpeggios or possibly, you know, that kind of thing. But no, I don't really, there's not really much call for that, is there? Let me get back to the comments. For death metal, Brian Bella has a good technique to make the 16th note fast-paced drone with enough attack per note to not sound too flabby. Are you talking about when he's playing... I mean, sometimes he'll play... I know that he plays very slammy down like that, or you can use that kind of flutter finger technique. Hold on, let me get this thing out of the way. So... It's amazing how fast you can actually go with one finger when you just come backwards and forwards like that. Geddy Lee uses that quite a bit. That's not where I got it from, though. I didn't get it from Geddy Lee. I mean, I started doing that a long, long time ago, probably like early 90s, just from, just because I was trying to play like some really fast metal things, and I was like, oh, how do you do this? And I'll tell you where I got it from. Chuck Rainey, because Chuck Rainey does it. And if you look at his complete bass player book, that's how he talks about playing. He talks about just playing with one finger, just coming backwards and forwards. But I've got terrible nails. He uses his nail for coming backward. One thing you can do is actually do what you know, what Billy Sheehan, what he does when he's tapping. You know, and he puts that finger on the back of there. You can actually do that to get a little bit more meat behind it. So that's one way. But like I say, I'm not in metal bands or anything like that these days, so it's a bit useless for me. Oh, just out of interest as well. Not out of interest, but just, I don't know. This bass, you know, I was saying I bought it in 1992. He's not on this time, but usually each week when I do the live streams, there's a guy called Joe McLaughlin that sometimes pops up. He sold it me. It's like, he was in there was a metal band I was in, and he was the guy in it before me. And he sold me that. So it's about, 1992, I think it was. And I've still got it. I don't use it on gigs that much. I'll usually use the Jazz. Right, let me get through these quick. I do like the finish on it, though. I do like that kind of shiny, kind of blue thing going on. Honestly, these things were all the rage when I bought it. There's a pink kind of version, like a weird pink. There were two colours, blue and pink. If any of you have got any old back issues of Bass Player magazine, that's where I very first saw it. It was in a Bass Player mag back then, and they did a big special on it, and it was like, it got a really good review, and I thought, oh man, I really want that. But when I got it, it had Ibanez pickups in it. It didn't have EMGs. It had EMGs in the review, and I thought, oh, I want EMGs. And then eventually I swapped them out for EMGs, and now I've got these in. Is it normal to get different sounds from fingers on picking hand? Eighth, this is Joe. 8 notes on the same string, and if so, how to correct it? I've looked online, and it seems to not just be me. What do you mean when you're playing between? So you're getting a different sound with both fingers, right? It's two different things that can be coming into play. One of them is that you might have a nail that's longer on one string, and you might be catching it with the nail. I have hardly any nails, so I never have that problem. The other thing is you might be hitting harder on one finger. And I spent hours going over and over that when I very first started, because I knew that I had one finger that was always like, or, you know, one was always louder than the other, or they were just inconsistent. And you want to aim to try and get as even as you can, for if you want to have it like that. If you're finding that one of them is too heavy, just try backing off on that finger, but figure out which one it is. You'll work out that either the second finger or the first finger is to blame, and then just concentrate on either playing a little bit harder with the other finger, because it's usually going to be because one finger's stronger than the other, or try backing off on the other, and just be really conscious of it, trying to play a very consistent pedal bass line like that, and just keep them all the same consistency. Consistent. And then beyond that, then you can start trying to put in your own accents. So then you're in control of the accent. So if you're wanting, I'm exaggerating now, but you know, like one, two, dan, dan, or bam, 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 bam. So you're in control, because then if you're wanting to accent things like threes or fives, you know, it'll change each time. First time it'll be second finger, second time first finger, and then, you know, and it alternates. Fives, sevens, etc. Let me see what else we got here. At the moment, I'm just working up through the Facebook ones. I'm going to be as quick as I can. Like I say, I don't want to be here much longer. Thanks, everyone. Do you have any advice to start with fretless bass playing? I have actually got fretless in the background, but it needs setting up at the moment. With fretless bass playing, just the main bit of, because I'm not a brilliant fretless player, I don't do it that much, but I do every now and then. But the one thing to work on with your fretless bass playing is actually making it not sound like fretless. I know that sounds a bit silly, but the first thing that people do when they get a fretless is start, you know, like I'm playing, you know, doing sliding harmonics and sliding all over the place, putting loads of vibrato on and things like that. And you want to just try playing bass lines that you already play. And just try playing real simple stuff. So if you've got something like this, just along to a C chord, but trying to make sure that that C sounds in tune, you know, and get used to where that finger's going to have to be, you know, in terms of the position. Same. Oh. You know, just working around on like a straight walking bass line. and then along to a backing track, because you want something that you can compare it to. And also, if you're trying to get used to where the different notes are, use open strings as a guide. Make sure you're in tune first and that the intonation's right. But then if you're actually playing something like an octave there with an open string, this thing's out. Great, it's out of tune. Yeah, try playing in tune with yourself with an open string. Okay, very quickly. I'm guessing that was before I actually went through the bass. Can we get a drill or a workout exercise for pentatonic scales? I think that's what you mean. I can't think of anything straight off. I do have quite a few videos on YouTube about pentatonic scales, so there might be something on there that might help for you. I'll think of something that I can give you, a more in-depth thing that I can do at a later date. Otherwise, I'll be going through all the different scale positions and stuff, and it'll take too much time. Opinions on a bassist do use as a pick. Yeah, I love pick players. Loads of my favourite bass players are pick players. I've got a pick there, actually. It's one of those little stubbies. Although I'm not that keen on it, but... Oops. So... I'm not the world's greatest pick player. I played with a pick before I played with fingers when I very first started. But, you can't get that tone with your fingers very... I mean, you can kind of emulate it, can't you? But you never... just that twang that you get from the plastic hitting it, you're just fighting a losing battle if you're trying to do it with your fingers. So you might as well just use a pick. Yeah, no, there's loads of pick players that I love. I mean, there's the obvious ones like Cody Wright and Bobby Vega, who are just amazing. But then, Scott Tunis from Zappa's band, he was like a big hero of mine. I love all his playing, and that's all with a pick. Obviously, Duff McKagan, he sounds great with a pick. There's loads of pick players that sound great. Is it good to practice timing with the metronome? Yeah. Although, I mean, you also want to... it doesn't beat playing with a live person, in a band. But there's a lot of things that you can do with the metronome to increase your time, to improve your timing, of which I've done quite a few lessons on YouTube. So if you want to check out some of those, go knock yourself out with those. Right, okay, I'm going to have to... There's so many questions, I'm just going to have to pick out ones that are going to be quick and that I can answer quickly. When thumbing, not slapping, where do you prefer to place your thumb? Neck between the pickup and neck near the bridge. Do you mean when I'm thumbing like this, or do you mean when I'm anchoring? If I'm picking with my thumb, I'm generally going to be back here somewhere, just for clarity's sake. I mean, it depends. Like I did that video a couple of weeks ago where I'm talking about tone, and sometimes I might play over here, You get that kind of synthy bass sound when you're playing over there. So it depends on what tone I'm going for. If it's anchoring, then again, it depends on where I'm playing. What church uses a lot of C-sharp songs? I was wondering if you can maybe show me something different within the C-sharp major scale or minor scale. I don't know what you're looking for with that. I mean, just think in terms of the C major scale and just take it up a fret. I mean, there's more to playing in a key, obviously, than just learning the pattern, but remember that C, D, E, F, G, A, B is the C major scale, so C sharp major is C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp. So you just take everything that you've learned in C and you can just move it very easily. Right, let me move on to the YouTube ones, because I'm guessing there's quite a few here as well. Oh, God. That's way too many. I've kind of shot myself in the foot by doing it on both, haven't I? Because I'm going to have to miss out loads of these. because I have actually got to get back. I've got to get back home. Right, okay, let me go. Right, I've come back up. I'll work down from there. Right. Yeah, somebody pointed out Dominique Di Piazza plays that way normally. Yeah, in terms of four-finger picking, I never pointed out people that actually do that. Abel Boreal, he does. Dominique Di Piazza, he's the king of that. If you really want to see somebody that plays with that style that I was using, Dominique Di Piazza, check him out. He's a French bass player. He plays loads of chordal things, but he plays everything he plays is kind of with that style, and he's an absolute monster. So he played for, was it John McLaughlin? There's also Hadrian Farrow does it a little bit, although he barely needs it. He's that fast with his fingers normally. You'll sometimes, I think you'll sometimes see Yannick Wisdala playing with four fingers. In terms of, you know, that four-finger picking kind of thing, as in the single string. I mean, obviously, they all play four-finger like that when you're playing with chords. And who else is there? There's somebody else. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Matt Garrison. If you check out Matt Garrison, he plays like that all the time. Can you play the Chinese way with four-finger technique to speed it up? I mean... you could. That's the problem with this kind of technique. It's really tricky to play things without actually working them out in advance. I'm sure Dominique Di Piazza can just play anything like that, but because it's not my standard way of playing, I really need to actually work things out pretty much, unless it's something dead simple. But for a bass line that's working across the strings like that, I'd like to work it out in advance. You could actually work it to do it that fast, but and it might actually not sound too bad because it's got more of a funky kind of sound. So, And just in case you want to know anything more about that four-finger picking technique, I have got a series of 3 bass lessons on YouTube devoted to it. Just put four-finger picking into YouTube and I'm sure I'll come up. Four-finger picking for bass, and I'll probably be there with those videos. Right, let me whip down through some of these. Somebody was talking about the buzz there. I have got a little buzz because the weather's changed so much here, and so the neck's changed a little bit. But there's not much. I mean, there's no buzz there. What might be happening is if you're watching on a mobile device like a phone or a tablet, because there's no bottom end on there, you'll just get all the high end. And yeah, there might be a little bit of grind in there that you're hearing, and you're just not hearing the low end. Just working my way down. Oh. Drinking game. Drink a shot whenever someone asks Mark about the bass model. Yeah. I don't mind. It's a bit of advertising for Martin, I guess. But the yeah, what's the other one? Oh yeah, people ask me about playing either Lovely Day or singing while playing Lovely Day, and you know, do that lovely day, lovely day, lovely day, lovely day. Anybody that's been around for a while watching my live streams will know what I mean with that. Would having higher action help with left-hand muted slap? What, you mean that? No. I don't think it's made any difference, whatever the action I've had. This is a moderately low action, so if I'm playing whatever I'm doing, you know, it doesn't really make much difference. I was doing that the other day. What having a Julian brother? What's the hardest thing you've transcribed? I don't know. I've transcribed a lot of things. I really don't know. There were a few Frank Zappa things that I transcribed when I was younger, when I was at college, so early 90s. I transcribed the Black Page. That was pretty tough, but I did, what was it? There's a few things like that I've done that have rhythmically have been quite hard, where you've got a lot of ratio values and things. They can sometimes be tricky. Notes are usually not too bad. You just have to sit there listening to them over and over again. See, remember when I first started transcribing, there was no such thing as slowing things down. You know, it was like, you'll hear everybody talking about this when they talk about what it used to be like transcribing. And of course, you just have a tape recorder. There was no CDs even. It'd just be on a tape. And you get this rewind play kind of thing, because the rewind button would always be next to the play button. It'd be like, bzz, bzz, bzz. So you'd have like a lick, like, and you'd be trying to do that on the transcribing. There's so many of these comments. Right, okay, so I'm getting to the bottom now on the YouTube ones. Tab sucks and are almost always wrong. Just transcribe. That's good advice. You will find that the majority of tabs that you get online, I hate that word. Honestly, I hate the word tabs. I've got nothing against tablature itself, but when people say, "Oh, have you got the tabs for that?" I hate all that. It's like when people call pop music pops, and they say, "Oh, we're going to play some pops now." I mean, you probably don't know what I'm talking about, but when you're in some of the kind of sort of residency band kind of things that I've done in the past, where you've got like a big pad of tunes and there's like jazz stuff and pop stuff and country stuff and blah blah blah, and it's like, oh, we'll do some pops, you know, especially from jazzers. Jazzers love to say that. But yeah, transcribing's way better for you, because you know you learn things a lot better when you transcribe it than ever you would if you've got the tab. Tab has its place. It's good for showing a fingering of something, and also it can actually indirectly give you a little bit of a workout on your ear in a really weird way. Yeah, transcribing is way better for your ear, but if you're learning something and you've got the tab there and you can just see what the notes are, you've still got to listen to the original recording. So you're listening and you can at least find the note a bit easier and listen out for it. So it's not as good as transcribing it straight without the tab, but it's a start. I'm not one of those people that's completely anti things, for learning, because I know so many bass players, musicians in general, that have all had completely different paths to becoming a musician. And to say that there's just this one way that everybody has to do is just silly. It's just thick. I mean, you're an idiot if you think that, to be honest. That's the kind of thing I'd get in an argument with somebody in one of these interviews about it, because I just don't see it. Because I don't look at it from a musical perspective necessarily. I just see it more from a kind of educational in a more educational way, looking at it from outside of the bubble. Rather than it just being, I am a musician and I learned this way and you have to do it this way. And it's like, man, there's a million different ways to show anybody anything. So, that's why you'll get suddenly people that are amazing educators in, let's say, astrophysics or whatever, that can put things in a way that you'd never thought of before. So I don't buy into this kind of, oh, well, there's a one way to learn. Not that there's that many people that advocate that, but, if they did, I'd be like, you're talking crap. You can tell I'm just sitting here getting into one of my rants. What was the name of the French bass player? Dominique Di Piazza. Have you seen Ryan Martini play, ex-Mudvayne? No, I haven't. Using a looper pedal to lay down a backbeat is great fun to practice too. Yep. Yeah, and Ariel there has put Dominique Di Piazza's name. That's what to look out for. if you're not into that kind of stuff, then you'll probably find him quite, you know, you won't be that into it. But if you want to see somebody, I mean, he's an amazing player. I mean, you know, whatever you think of that style of playing, if you're not into jazz or improvised music, then you know, if you only want to listen to Metallica, then you'll probably find it a little bit dull. But he is phenomenal. And I love all the stuff he does. Does your four-finger picking bend more at knuckles or middle finger joints? Don't know. Let's have a look. Well, if I'm just playing with that thumb and first finger like that, actually, yeah, it's all there. Yeah, it's that action. It's that. It's coming back into the palm. It's really difficult to show you, isn't it? Let me try and... let me try and get to the... Can you see? It's kind of coming back, flicking back into the palm. The fingers are... As soon as I've played with the thumb, they're kind of sat there one at a time waiting to go. Now they're not all there like that to begin with, but oh yeah, they are. So it's a bit weird playing it at this angle, but you get the idea. Right, this is the end now. I'll just do the last few. I'll just find something that's worthwhile. Not that any of your comments are not worthwhile, but I just want to find something that's that I can sort of do something with. Is your hair actually white? Well, yes, it is. I started going grey when I was in my 20s. I'm 42 now, so I was about 22 when I started going grey, and then I got diagnosed with an underactive thyroid. Go figure. I don't know how that happened, but because I was like really skinny as a kid and like really lanky and stuff, and really. I had incredibly fast metabolism and all that stuff, and I did lots of athletics and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden, I started having all these weird symptoms, and I ended up finding that had happened, which was just really weird. And one of the side effects is the hair graying. So that started to go grey, and then it's just gradually gone white. I actually put some dye on it last year. You'll notice that a few of my videos actually had... when I went on the ship, actually, I'd got it then. I got the brown. It was kind of because it was originally kind of dark brown, bordering on black, and yeah. Now it's pretty much white. And last time I dyed it, like the kids didn't like it, so and my missus, she said, "No, put it back." I just wanted to see if I looked the same as I did when I was in my 20s. Because my face hasn't changed that much. I've been quite fortunate with my skin. So I don't look that much different to what I did in my 20s, face-wise. I was very baby-faced then. But, yeah, but the hair is the dead giveaway. Mark, do you think every bass player should know about jazz scales? Well, there's not really such a thing as jazz scales. There's just scales. But, I mean, really, what you need to learn about is chord tones and about how scales interact with chord tones. You'll get you'll understand how scales are used a lot better if you actually understand the chord tones more. I don't class a Dorian scale as a jazz scale, and I don't class a Mixolydian scale as a jazz scale. Or even a Spanish Frisian, or a, you know, whatever, double harmonic, you know, all those kind of scales. I don't really class those as jazz scales. I suppose you could call bebop scale a jazz scale, but just in the same way that a blues scale, you know, a blues scale isn't only for blues, is it? So, you know. LPs were not in true pitch. It was really difficult to transcribe lifting the needle. Not half. if I ever wanted to transcribe something that I'd got on an LP, I just used to transfer it onto tape. In fact, so much so that during the 80s, when I didn't have anything like that, I used to put tapes on records onto tape by using a microphone. Oh, damn, the static walking bass lines. Damn. Right, let me very quickly just finish off with just something about that. Right, I'll try and be as quick as I can. So, if you've got a static chord for 2 bars, so if it's like something like All of Me, for instance. So C major to C major to E7, for instance. So you've got... Oops. So like All of Me. So... Okay, so we've got... Right, first of all, one thing that you can do is aim for the 5th and treat that as your root note in the next chord. Okay, so you might have... so what am I doing? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So then we're on the 5th. So if you just come up a scale, you end up on the 5th. Which means that then we're moving from the G to the E. So then you just have to think of a way of getting down to the E. So there you go. So there's a line. Bit dull, but you know. See what I'm saying? So you could come down to the 5th. I mean, there's you don't have to go to the 5th. You could go to the 3rd. You could go to anything. But it's just a way, or another way, without even getting analytical in that sense, is you can just try walking up or down, and then once you get into the 2nd bar, then aim for the next chord. So if I'm just working up, there I just worked up C, E, F, F sharp, G, and then I just thought, okay, well I'm there, I've got to get to there, let's just go back, and I overshot it and then got there. I wasn't being overly analytical. I wasn't thinking I'm going to do this to get there. I'm just working up. You know, however you want to do it. Yeah. So that's one way of doing that. Just kind of working off, just thinking in just pick a direction. Just think up or down. Just set off in that direction. Once you get to the 2nd bar of it, look at where you've got to go and think, okay, well, now I need to aim for that. Right? So that's one way of doing it. In terms of a static bass line, over a lot of bars, let's say that you're just on a C major 7. Oops. Just work around using the... You could just use the... It's actually just good practice for just walking around on a scale or on the arpeggio. You know, just... I'm just working, you know, just walking around on that C major scale and the C major arpeggio, or C9, or what C major 9, whatever you want to use, and then just, you know, kind of aiming for chord tones at the beat 1 of each bar. But I'm not really being analytical. I'm not thinking I've got to go for that, I've got to go for that, I've got to go for that. You kind of feel it more than anything, and you kind of think of an overriding arc. That always happens with walking bass lines. Once you get beyond all the notes thing, so you're not really having to think about the notes, it just ends up just being where you're going. So you set off on a line and you think, okay, well, I'm going up. Well, let's say it was with that C major. I'm just thinking up. Oops. You know, it was up, 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 down, 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 down. And kind of just every few bars, every 2 2, 4, 8 bars. Try to aim for the root notes so that because you'll feel a certain tension and then you'll feel it release on the root notes. Like just when I did that. Hear how it releases the tension once you get to there. So yeah, so hopefully that helps a little bit. Okay, cool. So that's it for today. So I will... well, that's been pretty successful, actually, in terms of turnout. We've still got 143 on Facebook. I've never had close to that. Maybe that's because I've not done one for a while. But 102 on YouTube. So it just shows that you are actually... that you do care. That you are interested. Because I just never know how many people I'm going to get at all. Oh, Leo says, what's your favourite colour and food? Favourite colour? I think blue, actually. Which is, you know. And food, I like lamb shank. I don't know. There's a lot of Italian dishes that I like. I like pesto. So there's a nice chicken pesto dish that I like. And just lastly, there's been a few more comments while I've just as I've been going. Talking about Tab, what is your take on the Nashville number system, or should I learn to sight read music? Well, both. You know, people sometimes ask these questions like, oh, should I do this, or should I do that, or is that wrong, or is that wrong? It's like, learn everything. If you learn everything, eventually you'll realize what works and what doesn't. You know, it's like they're saying, should I learn to read the Nashville number system or to sight read? Well, do both. Do it all. You know, should I do this? Should I do that? Do it all. Just learn everything you can. In terms of actually having a bigger impact on your playing, I'd say sight reading would be better. Now, don't take that as sight reading. I just mean reading music. That's, you know, I've got my reading course over at Talkingbass, and I would definitely advise you to do that. But then, and I've got Volume 2 coming up in the next month or so, so that's going to be good. A Nashville number system. Well, the Nashville number system is basically just the same way that we've analysed chords since the Baroque days. It's just pretty much. I mean, I know that there's a few more little things that they have going on in terms of the numbers, so that you can see. You know, it's basically a shorthand. But you know, chord 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in a key. You know, we've been doing that since the Baroque days. So yeah, that's a real simple, easy one to do. Okay, cool. So I'll probably do another live stream next week as well. So if you're around, I'll do it at the same time because we've got a good turnout this time. So if you want to watch back through this, you know, I did all about the 4-finger picking and the joint barring. You'll be able to watch this straight after, just, you know, as soon as it's finished encoding. And you can go back over and watch it. For you on Facebook, one thing that you might notice is that if you try going back over it afterwards, there will be a delay between the voice and the mic. I don't know why. It's fine when I'm going out live, but afterwards, the syncing's really bad. So usually the following day, so tomorrow, I'll try to upload the local recording that I've got. It's much better quality as well, because this will be recorded locally on my PC. So I'll just upload that. So you won't have the comments below it, but you'll have a decent quality upload at 1080p. So I'll do that. All right, thanks everybody. That was phenomenal. That was really, really good. So if we can get this kind of turnout every week, then I'll definitely be doing it. Okay, cool. So I shall see you all, hopefully, next week.